Hi guys, thanks for joining me. What does it feel like being in business for you? Has it provided you with a great income, a great lifestyle, a great result? Well, if you're like 95% of business owners, it hasn't. In fact, for most of us, it feels like a sinking feeling or a feeling of being trapped in a maze with impenetrable walls. Wasn't business meant to be moving me forward? Wasn't it meant to be giving me the lifestyle, the money, the control, and the benefits that a business should offer? Wasn't it meant to be exciting and about moving me ahead? But instead, you spend most of your time on everyday tasks. You spend most of your time on problems, on your issues with suppliers and staff and customers. These things absorb most of our time, energy, and money. These things have us running around in circles, moving forward, but never really actually getting ahead. These are the walls of the maze that you're stuck in. Walls that determine your direction, your path, and ultimately your results. These walls mean that you're walking a predetermined path, the path of mediocrity at best. You'll get there, but at what cost? There's staff interests, resilience. Just think about how much time you're working on. Just think about how much time you spend working on other people's interests, suppliers, staff, customers, even the accountant. Time spent on staff resistance, customer obligations, time wasting activities, and other people's issues and problems. These are the walls of your maze. Wouldn't it be great if you could just skip through all this rubbish and just do the things that really count in your business? Things that move you forward towards the benefits. Things that keep you profitable. Things that give you growth and expansion. Things that automate activities so you only have to do them once. Things that give you a competitive advantage. Wouldn't it be great if I could show you a hidden door through these walls and straight to the path, straight to the honeypot? No dead ends, no wrong paths, and no inefficiencies at all. Wouldn't it be great instead of stumbling around chasing your tail, feeling at these huge walls and barriers of the maze, you could just cut through to the end? Well, prepare to be very excited because today I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. How to find hidden doors in these walls. And they can be predictably found and opened, and you can stroll straight through them if you know what you're doing. And I don't mean some theoretical door or magical door. I mean actual doors that exist in front of you right now. A door that allows you to push through the most restrictive elements of your business. Push through the walls of the maze. Hidden doors in business allow you to leapfrog through to the next level and a lot closer to the things that you want to get out of your business instead of just moving around in circles. Just think how much brighter your future would be if you could punch through these walls and take a direct path to your goals, to your end prize. Or if you only worked on things that moved your business ahead. And once again, once you know how you can do it again and again and again. Now, I understand that currently you see these walls of things you've got to do as necessities. And that's fine. That's where most people do start off. But hopefully I'm about to change all that for you. But it's not just about seeing these hidden doors. It's about getting through them. I'm going to show you also how to use a handle to open the door and how to unlock the door so you can walk straight through the door with the master key so that you don't get locked out. And here's the great thing. The truth is, hidden doors don't have to be mysterious or confusing. They don't require you to have super brains or a great education or heaps of experience. How do I know this? Well, because I was just like you. My business had massive walls of obligations and distractions and lesser work items, just like yours does now. And its performance was average at best, and even worse, it was 100% dependent on me, which meant I had no time. But I discovered hidden doors in my business, and it took my situation to something that I couldn't have believed was possible beforehand. Now I have great money, a fantastic lifestyle, low stress, and lower work levels. But here's the best news for you. Once I found a hidden door, I became obsessed with them. And I became obsessed with finding them in other people's businesses. And it started to give me a huge buzz. But there is an easier path than the one that I walked down. I wish someone who had done it before could have shown it to me, rather than me stumbling around looking for it. Well, for you, I'm that guy. And finding yours is going to be much easier than what you think. Let me tell you about a couple of people that I have found their hidden doors for them. Roger. You're about to buy, this is Roger's quote, you're about to buy an opportunity to improve your life in ways you can't imagine. If you want a better life, methodically implement everything Shane tells you to do. It will get you the life you want faster and with less stress. Maddie B, holy crap, the callback was more than successful. After one conversation with Shane, the next week I completely booked out. Now I have the skills and the knowledge for the rest of my life. Imagine being able to just turn the tap on work whenever you like. It was truly an eye-opening experience. Cheers, Matt. P.S. This is crazy. Thanks again for the tip, mate. And finally, Peter G. In our very first meeting, I must admit I was a little dubious about some of the things you said. Funny about that. But over the last year, more than once, I've come home and said to my wife, bugger me, Shane was right. Everything you've said I've seen come true and happen right in front of me. I've implemented some of your suggestions to find once more that you were bang on the money. Even in general conversation with you, you made a comment which reset my focus and made a positive effect on my business. Thanks for not just sharing, but wanting to share this info. Before me, these guys were doing things a hard way. They were putting up with bad customers. They were putting in more but getting bad results or not affecting their results. They were stressed out and keeping their heads just above water. They had no time to work on the important stuff that guarantees success in business. They were hitting their head against invisible barriers and never getting any momentum. They were letting relationships suffer because of work. More and more time spent managing staff. And they were trying to do 10,000 things at once. As they discovered, it doesn't have to be this way. Everyone has a hidden door. You just need to know the 3 secrets associated with finding the hidden doors and getting through them. So, secret number 1 is finding your hidden door that I'm going to take you through. Secret number 2 is how to open it. And secret number 3 is how to make sure that you don't get locked out by cutting yourself a master key. And when you've got this combination of the 3 secrets, they will cheer you through the door rather than provide you with resistance. But this is not pie in the sky stuff. It's actually very simple and practical, and it has a mathematical grounding as well. So at this point, you may be thinking, this can't be true. I've been doing the best I can. I'm intelligent. I've been focused on the bottom line. I'm a hard worker. I read books. How could have I not heard of this before? Well, I'm actually hoping that you have heard of some of these things before, but I can remember thinking the same thing. But I'd also heard rumours of guys that started with nothing and had achieved wicked lifestyles for themselves. They'd built wealth and they'd moved ahead at an unnatural, certainly unaverage pace. And I imagined it could be me. These guys that I saw had double my income. They had double my lifestyle. They had half the workload and with little or no stress. And logic told me that they must be doing something different than the average person. But how did they get there? Who's going to tell me their secrets to success? Is it going to be the old boys of the industry? Is it going to be the industrialized education system that we all go through? Is it going to be books? Well, books is probably the best one, and I certainly did get more and more hints from books. But books sometimes fail to provide practical blueprints on your personal escape plan, or they fail to provide you with the skills to be able to come up with an escape plan yourself. So, why will I be any different? Why should you listen to me? Well, I've sometimes been referred to as the 100-year-old monk, not because of my age and not hopefully because of my virgining grey hair, but because I've had over 1,600 business years of experience. I'm 1,600 business years old. How is that possible? Each year I work with about 130 businesses, and I've been doing it for about 13 years. So if you took 13 times it by 130, you'd get up to 1,600 business years. These business years have been filled with assisting, coaching, mentoring, and training these guys. If they had a problem or if they wanted to achieve something in business, it was me that they called. In just over 10 years, I've coached over 400 business owners. I've been responsible for the creation of millions of dollars in revenue. I've taken business owners from frustration to absolute freedom so many times, but I still love it. And I've pulled myself up by my own bootstraps and to get to the top of my game. My students affectionately have referred to me as the wise old man, the no BS man, the show me the money man, the key maker, the guru, and even Mr. Tough Love. But the most importantly for this session is that I have the uncanny ability to spot your hidden doors. So why are all these years of business experience so important in spotting these doors? Well, when you overlap hundreds of businesses and their results, a pattern actually begins to form. An outline of the hidden door becomes a little clearer. But with all these years of business experience, can I help you? Well, we don't actually know yet. But I do want to, we don't actually know yet. But I don't want to just share for the sake of hearing my own voice. And the money is okay, but that's not really what drives me. I'm actually focused on making a difference, creating value for the right people. I know that value always comes back to me anyway. If these people get great things out of their life, they're going to reward me in more than one way. Plus, I get a kick out of seeing your victories and your achievements. And sometimes I even get the chance to celebrate them with you. But to do this, I can only work with people that I can help. People that want to be helped. People that are willing and able to implement. These are my right people. The wrong people, I'd rather be upfront. If you're the wrong person, it's better that we part ways now. So if you already know it all, or you're convinced that things can't change and you're getting that voice in your head now, I'm not willing to undergo that process with you to change that. If making you feel busy feels really important, or if you're afraid of hard work, or you're just unreliable, you're dishonest, or you're untrustworthy, then what I'm going to show you is not for you. Also, I do accept that some people will just not get me. They'll not get what I'm saying, and that's cool. Let's part ways now and have no hard feelings. So if that's the case, thank you for your time, and I wish you all the best for the future. But for the right people, you can take some satisfaction and be very motivated by what we're about to take you through. We're talking about taking your business to the next level. We're talking about you working less but achieving more. We're talking about maximizing your time and energy, receiving true value for your labors, building a business that delivers financial freedom and control. We want you spending more time with yourself, with your friends, with your family, and looking after your physical and mental health. So, a general warning before we start. Results are not typical, and results cannot be guaranteed. I don't know you or your business or how well you can implement. Maybe you never get around to doing any of the things that I teach you. So, any results we talk about in this presentation cannot be regarded as typical. It takes effort, persistence, and patience to change. With any business, there is always the chance of things not working out, and I am in no way promising what you can make out of this, or make out of what I do, or what I'm teaching here. Anyway, there's nothing for sale today, but if you stay until the end, I have a free gift for you as a bit of a thank you for your time. This gift will ensure that you find and push through your first barrier and dramatically change your results, and it's my gift to you. But let's get started, Let me tell you a story to try and give you some context. When I was on a Year 8 excursion to a massive adventure playground, this adventure playground's claim to fame was it had an extremely large hedged maze. I mean, this thing was huge. It had 3-meter sides and was dense as hell. It was very intimidating. Of course, the aim of the maze was to navigate our way through to the other side with a flag that you gathered in the centre of the maze, and the teacher added a Mars bar for the first 3 places to encourage us. The teacher started all the kids at the entrance of the maze with a big smile on his face, I'm sure, thinking, yippee, no kids for an hour. All the kids except for me, of course, because I had to sit down on the bench and start 5 minutes later than everyone else because I'd been a bit naughty on the bus on the way up there. But all the other kids lined up. Imagine 20 kids scrambling over each other, pushing, shoving, and the teacher yelling, "Go!" There were more than a few scuffs and scratches, and I guarantee I would have been in the thick of it loving it. But I wasn't. Instead, from a distance, to be honest with you, it actually looked stupid. They were going to hurt themselves for a Mars bar. But I remember actually being a little bit angry too and thinking, I don't stand a chance now. There's no way I can win this game. The odds have been unfairly stacked against me. And stuff these guys and their rules, particularly my PE teacher. No, if I was going to stand any chance, I could not play the same game as everyone else was because I'd been disadvantaged. I would need to change the playing field. I would need to find a hidden advantage or at least a different approach, and I would need to push the boundaries. To be quite honest with you, I was accustomed to this situation, and it had become a bit of a specialty over time, Shane versus the teacher, particularly my PE teacher. So when the 5 minutes was up, I didn't rush like I normally would. Instead, I took my time. How do I stand a chance? How do I beat the system? I need a way through these walls. A point where the hedge was thinner. And when I looked carefully, I could see just that. A place that if I focused my energies, I could push through. I just saved myself heaps of time by pushing through to the next row. Giddy up. Could I do it again? Oh my God, yes. Funnily enough, 4 meters down from where I'd pushed through, there was another thinning spot. And this is when it struck me. Wait a minute. This thinning was actually a section that had been trimmed back. It had been cut diagonally adjacent to the wall, so to hide it, but it was there. Why? Well, it must have been there for staff and maintenance and, say, for emergencies if someone got stuck in the maze. And what that meant was there probably was one on every wall. What began as a bit of luck became a predictable way of finding my way to the centre. Imagine the teacher's surprise when after 10 minutes I appeared at the other end. Mate, I was going to get a Mars bar, I was going to get bragging rights and a good laugh at my PE teacher. Of course, what I got was a little bit different. I was sent to the school bus and for the rest of the day and punished for cheating. Now, this story represents a couple of things for me that I want you to take away as well. The first is the system is designed quite often to prevent you from getting too far ahead or from having any advantage over anyone else. And the best options have quite often not been presented to you, or worse, deliberately hidden. And finally, there is a smarter way. In business, in life, in the maze. Find sensitive points, the points of least resistance, the sections that give you the best result, and focus your attention on these. We naturally know this, but we sometimes get confused by the fact we're in this game. So are you just going to keep on walking around the walls of the maze, going slowly like everyone else? Or do you actually want to win? So let's push on a small section where you have the best opportunity to have the greatest impact on your overall performance and win the game. The section that can get you through all the crap and straight through to the candy pot. And today I'm going to show you those 3 secrets. So let's revise them and go into a little bit more detail about them. Secret number 1, getting your glasses adjusted. Seeing your hidden door in the wall of obligations, requirements, and rubbish that is your everyday requires correct focus. So we're going to have a look at that. Secret number 2, using the handle. Using a handle to open the door. So the door opens like magic. So there's a smarter place on the door to push, obviously the handle. And we're going to talk about finding the handle and pushing on it. And secret number 3, when we get there, is cutting the master key. The key that opens all the doors so you can't be locked out. In fact, people are not going to lock you out. People are actually going to cheer you on if you use this method. So secret number 1, getting your glasses adjusted. Seeing the outline of the door on the wall is as simple as being able to distinguish it from the rest of the wall. It's about seeing clearly. Now, when I was growing up, my eyesight started to deteriorate around year 2, but it wasn't recognised until about year 4. And when you can't see things clearly and with clarity, you miss a lot and you fall behind. You don't know what's important and what's not because you're not following along. And I had to repeat year 3. It literally took me twice as much effort to do year 3. And what was more damaging was it actually made me feel stupid and developed a belief that I actually was no good for study. So this was all because of a 0.35 out of 20/20 vision misalignment. A 15% misalignment literally doubled my workload and time. What about you? If you're anything like the normal business owners that I deal with, then 15% of misalignment is actually not too bad. Most are probably out by about 50%. And quite often business owners are actually focusing on completely the wrong thing and 100% out of alignment. Just like me repeating year 3. It's taking you at least twice as long to achieve your objectives. One thing's for sure, without seeing clearly, with clarity, you're not going to see your hidden door. But clarity isn't as much about physical sight as it is about mental comprehension. So if you actually look at the definition of clarity, clarity is the quality of being or seeing clearly in a particularly coherent and intelligible way. So coherent, which is logical, which is a construct of the brain, coherent and paying attention, and being intelligible. So once again, that leads to intelligence, which is the brain. Your brain interprets what your eyes see. The brain sorts the important from the unimportant. The brain determines what to focus on and what to ignore. So while we talk about glasses, it is in fact your brain that interprets things, that allows you to see clearly. So what do we want to see? Well, we want to see the thinning point, the point where there is only a few precious things that control the majority of the outcome. Does that sound familiar? Well, it should, because it's been covered in a lot of texts, and you've probably heard of the 80-20 rule before. You may have even heard of Pareto's theory or even Zipf's law. I'm not going to go into them in massive detail, but what they do represent is based on learnings. These rules have come to light. What they focus on is what they do is they bring your attention to focus on the small things that have a big impact on your result. And by focusing on these things, you can more easily examine how to influence the 20% that gives you the 80% result. Now, I'm not one that goes around trying to reinvent the wheel and making out that I'm discovering things for the first time. The 80-20 rule has been around for a long time. And it will also provide us with a good grounding of what we're trying to achieve here. So let's start with a quick video that someone else has done that explains quite well the 80-20 rule, and then we'll build on it. Here you go.
Most people have already heard of Pareto's 80-20 rule. That 80% of the time, you wear only 20% of the clothes you own. That 80% of the traffic is carried by only 20% of the roads. That 80% of your income comes from only 20% of your customers. In other words, if you have 100 customers, then each of that 20 customers will provide 16 times worth of revenue than any of the 80. Now, don't get focused on the exact numbers in math. The key takeaway here is that majority of effects come from minority of causes. But what you'll learn today is how to quantumly improve your productivity. You'll learn the 3 Ds and most importantly, the magic of Pareto's 80-20 principle when you dig into its infinite layers. The first step is to determine the 20% of activities that matter, given all possible activities you already do. Then look at the other 80% and think about all the unproductive stuff you do. because the first D is delete. Steve Jobs said, "I'm as proud of what we don't do as I am of what we do." So come up with a give up list of what you're willing to sacrifice for success. And yes, I know, this is not easy. I personally gave up video games. I used to be addicted to them and spend mindless hours engaged in them. I also gave up watching the news because it was mostly negative, and anything important I'll often hear from family and friends anyways. And if you can't delete them completely, then at least reduce them. For me, I gave up watching sports during the main season, just occasionally watching highlights, and became a fan just during playoffs. And I gave up much, much more. The second D is delegate. In other words, get someone else to do it. Some people are egotistical and want to do everything. Sometimes, delegation requires humility and a recognition that you are not the only competent person in your organization or family. Hire people if you can. Delegate as many necessary activities that you can afford below your hourly rate. For example, if you make $50 an hour and it takes you an hour to mow the lawn, then consider hiring someone to do it for $20 while you go to work. Because you should really aim to only be doing activities in your 20%, where you get a 16 times ROI. The third D is to double down. Now this is where the magic is, that only a handful of people are aware of. Doing this will give you a whopping 256 times ROI. Instead of focusing on only the 20% that produces high results, try to focus on only the 4% that produces enormous results. Then if that's not enough, double down again and start getting an insane 4,096 times ROI. Like if you had 1,000 employees, focus your attention on the 8 who are going to give you a 4,096 to 1 return. They'll be generating about 51% of your revenue. So love them, take care of them, because believe me, you don't want them quitting. Now the reality is, the tasks often get harder and harder the closer you get to the right of the graph, and the left side can get distracting. For example, 80% of your employee complaints will come from just 20% of the people, and oftentimes they won't be the same 20% who's generating the 80% of your income, who you should really be devoting more attention to. So focus on the small that matters. Even Dr. Oz says, focus on the few vital functions. When someone is injured, no matter how many bones are sticking out, paramedics are trained to check the most important functions first. When Dr. Oz performs surgery, he walks in only during the most important and crucial part, which he has mastered to perfection. He has a team to do everything else, and that's why he earns the big bucks. So what do these famous people have in common? The answer, they are all super achievers. Now there are a lot of things these people are clueless about, but they are masters at things that produce insane results. The great news is that if you follow the 3 Ds, then you can be too. Of course, there are endless applications of leveraging Pareto's principle beyond the scope of this video. I urge you to spend some time finding other applications of it throughout your day-to-day life. But remember, our time in this planet is limited, and time is the most precious thing we have. By leveraging the true power of Pareto's 80-20 principle, you'll be able to achieve success and in the long run, spend more time doing the things you truly love. Thanks for watching. Hi, I'm Aaron Tupaz of Positively Brainwashed.
There you go, guys. So hopefully that gave you some information. Now, I'm not here to prove that the 80-20 rule exists or even exactly why it's real. I'm here to show you that you can use principles like it, and particularly the principle, to find your hidden door. You probably saw some correlations in that video when they was talking about doing the small things that really matter. I'm interested in using the tool to get you what you want. Now, in business, where we're focused, there's some 80-20 rules that come through clearly in data, and I'll run through some of them with you now, and then we'll expand on them. 80% of your income comes from 20% of your clients. 80% of your leads result in 80% of your leads result in jobs, 20% do not. So that's one that I found working with my guys a lot. 20% of leads will book to become a regular on the first visit. 80% will not. 20% will become regular if you call them a second time when you would normally have serviced them in a regular cycle. 20% of customers cause 80% of the problems. Very true. And we'll give an example of that in a minute. 20% of your products equal 80% of your profit. 20% of your products and services equal 80% of your profit. 20% of your Facebook ads equals 80% of your sales. 20% of your tasks equal 80% of your results. Now, did you get any of them? Well, guess what? It actually doesn't matter if you got any of them or not, because it's not the actual 80-20 ratio that is important. It's the fact that there is a ratio is what is important. Let me show you what I mean. When I sit down with my guys in a one-on-one coaching session, one of the first things that we pull out and go through is their client list. In a recent session, we discovered the top 30% of this guy's customers were producing 70% of his ratio. In fact, after drilling down, we got to 1%, or 1 out of 97 customers, providing 25% of his revenue. Now, these learnings produced action items like this. The top 30%, or 1% when we were looking at it, is where the money is. So let's double down our efforts on this customer. Let's make sure we allocate the correct amount of time, care, and mental space based on revenue. 70% of the revenue should equal 70% of the effort. Let's focus on replicating the 30% of the best customers. Let's look for birds of a feather that are the same. Let's sell more regularly and frequently to the happy 30% that are not price-sensitive customers, that are more likely to buy from us. And there was more as well. But my point here is that it didn't matter that the ratio was not 80-20. In fact, it was 70-30. But this did not have an effect on our ability to drive outcomes. It didn't matter that the ratio was not 80-20. Not at all. In fact, on some occasions in this business review and coaching session, asking the questions, could it be 80-20, actually produced some other learnings as well. So seeing the outline of the door is all about seeing that not all work items, customers, sales items, etc. are created even, and therefore they should not be treated the same. It's as simple as being able to distinguish the door items from the wall items, like we mentioned before. Once you've found the door, you'll need to get it open though. Otherwise, we can push with all our effort and we'll actually get nowhere. So our next secret, once we've seen that there is an outline and there is ratios that can be used, is to find the handle on the door. So secret 2 is finding the handle. Finding the point you can push on which will open it like magic. It's the smartest place to push. And it's not very hard to find. In fact, while 20% of the wall is the door, as we just discovered, there is also 20% section of the door that is more important. So same theory. This is called the handle. The handle leverages a latch open. It's the one small point that holds the door closed. And it's just a simple refinement of the 80-20 rule. And this is it. So if you look at the diagram up in the top right hand corner, that probably gives you the best explanation. So if we start on the left hand side, we can see that 100% of customers equals 100% of sales. But we take the top 20% and we find that those top 20% of customers equals 80% of sales. So we pass through the 20% of customer and the 80% of sales. But now within that 20% of customers that equals 80% of sales, we look for the top 20% of the top 20. And that gives us the top 4% of customers. And we discover that 80% of 80% of sales, as we move it through the cycle, equals 64% of sales. So the refinement of the 80-20 rule, taking it down to the next level, gives us 4% of clients equaling 64% of sales. And we can do it again. We can take 20% of 4%, up on the top section to get us 1% of customers, and we take 80% of 64% of sales, and we get 51% of sales. 1% of customers equals 50% of sales. It's simple mathematics, and that diagram down in the bottom right hand corner actually shows how it's done in an Excel spreadsheet, where we're just taking the top 20% and finding the top 20% of that 20%, and in terms of results, it's the 80% of the 80%. Now, this holds true, and we've seen it. This refinement provides you with the most refined result. It also requires the minimum amount of effort and the best chances of success because it's refined. So it's where you should start. This area, the handle, allows you to assure that you can leverage the whole door open. It's the results that you get from focusing on that refined 1% that motivates and justifies the focus and the exploration of the other 20%. The 1% or the 4% that cracks the door open. And when you crack the door open, it becomes more visible. Think about it. You're going to face resistance from others and even from your own beliefs and habits. You need a big win straight up to push the rest of the way through. Let me give you an example. In a recent coaching session, I could clearly see that Barry was frustrated and distracted. So I started asking him questions. I asked him why. And below is a transcript of that conversation. Why so sad, Barry? Bloody clients. God, they annoy me, Shane. Bloody clients. God, they annoy me. Bloody clients, God, they annoy me sometimes, or words to that effect. Some of his clients were getting him down, though. What clients, I asked. He named a few examples of giving quotes to new potential clients that annoyed him, but he was really annoyed and emotional about a couple of regular clients that he had. Well, I said to him, well, why don't you just get rid of those clients? Simple solution. Well, I need the dollars, Shane. I need the dollars attached to them. But if you get rid of them, you'll have free time. You could go and find other customers. No, I just can't see myself doing it. It's too risky. I can't let go. I'm afraid. Okay, then, who is your worst client? And explain to me why he's your worst client. I'll leave his comments out, but he definitely expressed himself. So I asked him, it sounds like this lady or this man in this instance was causing you substantial emotional and mental drain. Yes, he said. Yes, he is. Okay, how often do you think of her or the job itself? Well, I do my weekly scheduling on a Sunday night and I start thinking of her then. Okay, on a Sunday. When do you do the job? Thursday I do the job. So you feel like that for 7 days before? Yeah, you bet I do, he said. Well, I bet you feel relieved after Thursday. I hope to provide him with some comfort. No, actually, he said, I can't believe it after I've done the job that I had to do it for such a mean and bitter person, or the fact that I had to do it for such a low price could be another example, or the distance I have to travel to that client, or the inconvenience of parking, or whatever it is that's driving you crazy. Okay, well, how long after you finish the job does the feeling last? About a week, he's annoyed for, he said. And last week, I actually got so upset that when I went to my next job for one of my bigger customers, straight after I did it, because I was so frustrated, I actually got annoyed with them. Wow, got annoyed with one of his best customers. At this point, it was time to drive the conversation home. So this one customer is on your mind for 2 weeks, 5 days before and 1 week after. So 2 weeks destroying your emotional and mental space. 2 weeks out of 4 because it's on a monthly service. So one customer equals 50% of your mental space. You can see the ratio, can't you, from before? And it has it's actually affected one of your high-paying clients, one of your 30% of people who equates to 70% of your revenue. Yes, he said. Clear solution. Barry, fire that client right now. Make the phone call right now. Here's what to say. And I ran him through what to say to get rid of that client in a nice method. See how I had to get, though, to the lower factors in order to get Barry to take action? He couldn't take action when I was just outlining it as a few clients that annoyed him, but he could take action on the 1%. and he could see the result of that 1%. Now that he's taken action and he's seen the results, now I can get him to move on the 4% of clients or the 20% of clients. It's actually the lower level of refinements that work. The door is unlatched at this level. The handle is the 1% or the 4%. So knowing the ratios gives you a guiding light, but the refinement gives you the ability to make it happen. Now, every time Barry sees me, he gives me a hug, literally, and he's not that kind of guy, but he gives me a hug and thanks me for changing the happiness of his business. I would have never acted on something so obvious. And guess what? Because I'm actually happier. I've been talking to my clients more and now actually have lots of additional high-paying services, and I can't understand why I didn't do it sooner. So with my clients, I run them through a lot of scenarios, a lot of worksheets and workshops that actually help them get to that point. And on this screen at the moment are a lot of diagrams that I use to try and help you get to that point. I'm not going to go into them now because we don't have time, but I just did want to show you that there is a lot of things that we can work you through, not only just the scenario we went through then. So, with our limited time that we've got, what have we learnt so far? We've learnt how to discover the door in the wall of obligations and distractions. We've learnt that there is a place that you can push on the door that makes entry a hell of a lot easier, the handle. But we're not actually going to get through the door if someone has restricted our access through the door. And sometimes that can be your own thoughts and expectations and beliefs and habits, but you're locked out. So the third secret, and probably the most important, is cutting a master key, a key that opens the door so that you can't be locked out by people. In fact, rather than locking you out, we're actually going to get them to cheer you on through the door. See, I was doing exactly what you're doing now. I knew the 80-20 rule and I believed it. And I started to see the outline of the door and I got excited. But when I went to open it, it was locked tight. In fact, people actually started blocking my path and went out of their way to discredit any ideas that I had relating to it and block any change. See, change is not easy and certainly it's not natural. And to quote Dan Heath in a book that I've read called The Switch, we all know that change, how things are getting done around here currently, is like trying to get an elephant to change direction. If the elephant doesn't want to change direction, there's not much use yelling at the rider perched up on top. There's not much he can do. Especially if the change that you're trying to make is moving the elephant off the well-known and well-trodden path that it does every day. And that's because ingrained in organisations, there's cultures, values, beliefs, structures, existing performance measures, shareholders' expectations, and people, executives, managers, employees, and they all want to tread down the same path. It's human nature. But probably the thing that annoyed me the most when I was trying to push through change was the passive resistance that you could just never really put your finger on and never really address. It just made things too hard, and as a result, you give up. But here's an insight into the secret. Have you ever seen an elephant run away from a bushfire or a jungle fire? A crisis can get even a 200-ton giant moving, and nothing better stand in its new path as it's running away from the fire. And that's why the last secret is probably the most important. A crisis. My first experience with the power of a crisis was not a productive or a productively enlightening moment or me driving myself to better. It actually came in my business life after the death of my father and the retirement of my mother from the family business. This left me running the business with one staff member. So it was a 50% reduction in labour just about instantly. And mum and dad did a lot of the time consuming, very draining activities like customer relations, complaints, training, and much more. Now, while I was grieving myself, I now had to learn their stuff, establish relationships with the people that they'd been dealing with, do all their work items while doing all my own stuff as well. The fact was, it actually couldn't be done. I had no choice but to change the business radically and instantly. I had no choice. But here's the crazy thing. I had tried to push through changes and make improvements before. It was a family business and I was the CEO. I had tried to explain the 80-20 rule but met with nothing but resistance. However, in crisis mode, I actually didn't even need to push at all. In fact, in crisis mode, this crisis created an environment that was super conducive to the 80-20 rule. And things actually started happening by themselves. I actually couldn't believe what I was seeing. Everybody I was dealing with was actually super clear and focused on just the important items, just the high value creating activities, the essentials, and they took pride in achieving more with less. They worked together and they followed up with each other to make sure that we were on track. It brought them actually all together. And they started proactively reporting back to me and going above and beyond. All of them, the customers, the suppliers, my peers, and staff members as well. Where there had been resistance, now these guys were actually doing this for me. And you know what? They actually created more overall value. The company improved with less resources, and our customers' happiness increased. Even the customers that didn't really even know our situation or what was going on. And each week became a little mini celebration. They actually cheered me on. And this is when it happened. They actually held the door open for me and I got sucked through it. They motioned me through. But why? How did this magic happen? Let's look at an example that I call the power of the burning house to try and explain it. You're in your living room with your family watching TV. You're arguing about who wants to watch what, who's got the remote, what the volume is. Dad starts to smell something funny and goes to the kitchen to investigate and discovers it's fully ablaze. And there's no stopping this. Dad yells out. What does he yell out? What happens next is the important thing. Instantly, shared goals materialize and are instantly adopted. Bare essentials and the valuable items are gathered. All the crap is gone. Only the most efficient and most essential activities towards the main goals remain. People are confirmed if they're okay and are capable of making it to the exit, or do they need assistance? Just honesty. No audits are required, just honesty. Arrangements are made to help the injured people if they exist and give them the support that they require. A path is created to carry the injured out almost instantaneously. The most essential items are recognised: pets, photos, personal valued items. Risk is assessed in obtaining these items. People volunteer to assist, and teams form. And team leaders are chosen almost automatically. A path to the exit is assessed, monitored and controlled. If something obstructs the path to the exit, everyone from every division comes together to work towards a solution. Everybody is working with Dad. They're calling out when things are done and where they're up to. Tools are determined, teams come together, obstructions removed without the loss of momentum. Everybody is operating to help others and work as efficiently as they can. Judgments, politics, and infighting do not exist in this environment. So in summary, the crisis hits and all hands go to the pumps. Suddenly everybody pulls together, decisions are made and actions are taken. Everyone is engaged, operating with urgency and outcome focused. The organisation is working together like never before. All these things happen, but the crazy thing is the 80-20 rule seems to form around important items together. They just are known like magic. Imagine if we work like this today, every day like this though. And isn't the ultimate goal of every organisation, a group of humans, to work effortlessly together in synergy? And you can see that happening in this example. But doesn't a crisis sound a bit over dramatic, Shane? Doesn't it sound scary? Aren't we trying to avoid a crisis? Well, the first thing to say about this is it doesn't have to be a real crisis. Think of it more like a situation or a practice drill. Of course, a drill is useless if the participants know that, so it must be real to them. But this simulated crisis is designed by you to create the burning platform, the compelling reason for change, an environment where you can push through. So designing the crisis and the response. Now this will be different for everyone, and it's something that needs to be workshopped with myself or with someone. But it's not actually as hard as you think, because every business has potential threats out there right now. Right now, a competitor could enter the market. The company could need to reduce staff costs by 25% as per the accountant's instructions. Margins could be thinner. All these things could happen right now. The one you choose will have relevance to your business and to your industry, a likely threat that you probably should be preparing for anyway. Examples. I worked with one of my gold customers to try and increase his sales revenue, and we set the goal of getting his additional services up by 20%, which probably would have a 40% impact on his revenue. We knew that additional services, the fries with that of our industry, paid much better, about 100% better. So that's where it could have the double impact and the sensitive point on our revenue. This was our 20%, and we wanted to double down on it. How did he communicate this crisis to his staff? Well, we talked about a number of mechanisms. We talked about the cost of fuel, the cost of insurance, the overall cost, which meant that we had to either rationalize or increase the amount of additional services that we offered. In other words, the accountant had told me that in order for your job to be viable, things needed to change. So it's a crisis that they can relate to. 50% of our billable hours must be additional services. So every job you go to, you must from now on find one or two additional services and communicate them to the customer. Other options we did talk about as well, things like we need to hit these sale targets or we could face cutbacks. Or a recent customer survey showed that we must raise our standards in order to be able to compete. Or moves by a competitor. We need to secure all our big accounts. So let's get on the phone, let's call them and make sure that they love us, doubling down our time on the areas that matter. The main thing is that you describe an event in terms of a crisis that is job threatening, business threatening, and requires extraordinary action immediately. Next, you can look to control that event, and that's something I go through with my clients as well. We control that through modifications or the inclusion of mission statements. We inject outcome-based measurements, and we look at the value stream mapping, and we uncover workflow issues. But getting into that now would be like putting the cart before the horse, and each one of those requires a mini session of learning as well. So it's more likely something we do in like week 3 or 4 of learning. But getting back to what I promised you today, I promised you 3 things. I promised you that we'd find the secret of your glasses, how to see your hidden doors in the walls of obligations, requirements, and rubbish that is your everyday, and we've covered off on that. Getting you correctly focused. Number 2, the secret number 2, the handle. How to use the handle to open your door like magic, and that is a very big one. But it's just a refinement. It's just building on what you've already learned with the 80-20 rule, but it's the smartest place to push. Secret number 3, how to get the master key so no one can lock you out of the door that you've discovered. So we've covered off on that. Now, after covering off on that, this is where I see the real opportunity for you. I know that there's a pretty good chance that you have had challenges making the money you want in your business and having the lifestyle you want to go with it, because it's common. And it's not fun, and it's very inefficient to be stumbling around the maze in the dark. Currently, you're denying yourself and others a life that you could actually share. I coach guys like you all the time. In fact, I specialize in helping small business owners and professionals cash cow their businesses and maximize their return on their effort. The good news is it's not whether you know completely or whether you have the complete ability to do this right now. It's not whether you have the complete ability to do this right now. It's about whether you can take one step and then learn the rest as you go with some help along the way. Most of my students do start off at 0 with this understanding, and we work them towards 10. What you need to win though, you need to have the right attitude. You need to have the right approach, and you need to have the right help to do this. When you get these factors, It's only a matter of time before you have stellar results. Imagine reducing your workday to just the 20 or 30% that matters. If you identify the 1% imagine if you identify the 1% that gives your customers 50% of their total value. The 1% that you do that gives them 50% of their total value. If you increase your sales by 200%, if you manage to reduce staff costs by 100%, there are heaps of hidden doors, and I'm finding them for people like you just all the time. So what now? You have two choices. You can click away from this and forget everything I just told you, but that means going back to your old results. Or if you really want things to be different and to change your life, this is how I can help you. I've set aside some time in the next 48 hours to speak to 15 people only about how you can apply these ideas in your life starting today. Whatever your biggest problem is, I actually know how to solve it. This is a free consultation, and I wish only my doctor or my health professionals that I chat to would do, or go and see would actually do this for me. In fact, I would normally charge $500 for this service. But I love giving away this free service because it starts a relationship on the right foot. I create value for you straight away at no risk to you at all. If you find my techniques and my knowledge is valuable to you, you might want to become a client. If that's the case, then my rates start from about $785 a month. If not, that's okay too. You got something very valuable, free advice that would normally cost $500. You can take that information, go away and take action on it, and it increases my economic karma, and that'll come back to me at some point. But let me make something very clear. Please understand that I am not offering you a sales pitch in disguise. I promise never to pressure or pester you in any way. In fact, time is the most precious commodity at all, and I don't want to waste any of yours, and I hope you feel the same. Does this sound fair? I think it does. So, on the 45-minute call, I'll help you in 3 ways. I'm going to help you find your first hidden door, find the handle so you can open the door, and I'm going to help you start cutting the master key so that your door is unlocked and you can walk straight through it. In fact, be sucked straight through it. With this in mind, who is this for? You must be either in business or be a manager or a professional. You must be open to growth and be brutally honest with yourself and be able to take action to get what you want. You must be committed to your own growth and success. You will have to make real improvements in your life right now. If you can say yes to all of this, then I'm happy to help you in a free 45-minute call. If this sounds like you, this is what to do next. Schedule a call with me by simply clicking on the link below. Here it comes. I'll send you a form with a few questions to help you outline what you're hoping to accomplish and how I can help you. Once I have this information, I can put together a few things for you that I know will help you. And it's going to help you achieve massive real performance increases. It's going to cut the business dependency strings that are tied to you. And it's going to have you spending less time meeting other people's needs and more on your own goals. And you're going to become more focused, more determined, and more successful than ever before. So click on the button that you see now. We have a 48-hour window, and I'm only going to do it for 15 people because, as I said, time is of the essence. So click on the button you see now. We have 48 hours. Well, you have 48 hours. I have the ability to see 15 people and have an hour conversation or 45-minute conversation with them rather. So that's what I'm going to do. So click on it now. You've got 48 hours. Do it now though and get yourself booked in so that you can be one of those 15 people. Thanks very much for listening to me. I know that I've provided value to you from what we've talked about, and I know I can provide more value to you in that call. So let's get cracking on it. Good on you. Thanks for listening to me. I've been Shane Foran, and all the best.